Thinking is talking of soul with itself. Love sees no enemies, fear does. Watch a man at play for an hour, and you can learn more about him than in talking to him for a year. Take heed of playing often or deep at dice and games of chance, for that is more chargeable than the 7 deadly sins. Yet you may allow yourself a certain easy sum to spend at play to gratify friends and pass over the winter nights, and that will make you indifferent for the event. If you would read a man's disposition, see him game, you will then learn more of him in 1 hour than in 7 years' conversation, and little wagers will try him as soon as great stakes, for then he is off his guard. For once touched by love, everyone becomes a poet. As empty vessels make the loudest sounds, so they that have the least wit are the greatest babblers. Man, a being in search of meaning. Sons, the event proves that your fathers were brave men, for we might have lived dishonorably, but have preferred to die honorably rather than bring you and your children into disgrace, and rather than dishonor our own fathers and forefathers. Then the case is the same in all the other arts for the orator and his rhetoric. There is no need to know the truth of the actual matters, but one merely needs to have discovered some device of persuasion which will make one appear to those who do not know to know better than those who know. My love, Alcibiades, which I hardly like to confess, would long ago have passed away, as I flatter myself, if I saw you loving your good things, or thinking that you ought to pass life in the enjoyment of them. Rhetoric, it seems, is a producer of persuasion for belief, not for instruction in the matter of right and wrong. And so the rhetorician's business is not to instruct a law court or a public meeting in matters of right and wrong, but only to make them believe. It would be a hard task to discover the maker and father of this universe of ours, and even if we did find him, it would be impossible to speak of him to everyone. As a breeze or an echo rebounds from the smooth rocks and returns whence it came, so does the stream of beauty, passing through the eyes which are the windows of the soul, come back to the beautiful one. Friends have all things in common. Your pride has been too much for the pride of your admirers. They were numerous and high-spirited, but they have all run away, overpowered by your superior force of character. Not one of them remains. And I want you to understand the reason why you have been too much for them. You think that you have no need of them or of any other man, for you have great possessions and lack nothing, beginning with the body and ending with the soul. I only wish that wisdom were the kind of thing that flowed from the vessel that was full to the one that was empty. Aristotle has kicked us off, just as chickens do their mother after they have been hatched. Necessity is the mother of invention. The true creator is necessity, who is the mother of our invention. As you hope to prove your own great value to the state, and having proved it, to attain at once to absolute power, so do I indulge a hope that I shall be the supreme power over you if I am able to prove my own great value to you. Meno, I feel somehow that I like what you are saying, Socrates, and I, Meno, like what I am saying. Some things I have said of which I am not altogether confident, but that we shall be better and braver and less helpless if we think that we ought to inquire than we should have been if we indulged in the idle fancy that there was no knowing and no use in seeking to know what we do not know. That is a theme upon which I am ready to fight in word and deed to the utmost of my power. But if with your mind's eye You regard the absolute great, and these many great things in the same way. Will not another great appear beyond, by which all these must appear to be great? It is impossible to conceive of many without one. Wonder is the feeling of a philosopher, and philosophy begins in wonder. And the true order of going, or being led by another, to the things of love, is to begin from the beauties of earth and mount upwards for the sake of that other beauty, using these steps only, and from one going on to two, and from two to all fair forms, to fair practices, and from fair practices to fair notions, until from fair notions he arrives at the notion of absolute beauty, and at last knows what the essence of beauty is. Atheism is a disease of the soul before it becomes an error of the understanding. It would be better for me that multitudes of men should disagree with me rather than that I, being one, should be out of harmony with myself. I shall argue that to seem to speak well of the gods to men is far easier than to speak well of men to men, for the inexperience and utter ignorance of his hearers about any subject is a great assistance to him who has to speak of it, and we know how ignorant we are concerning the gods. You want to know whether I can make a long speech, such as you are in the habit of hearing, but that is not my way. After much effort, as names, definitions, sights, and other data of sense are brought into contact and friction one with another in the course of scrutiny and kindly testing by men who proceed by question and answer without ill will, with a sudden flash there shines forth understanding about every problem and an intelligence whose efforts reach the furthest limits of human powers. Just as things in a picture, when viewed from a distance, appear to be all in one and the same condition and alike. All that is said by any of us can only be imitation and representation. Music is a moral law. It gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, a charm to sadness, gaiety, and life to everything. It is the essence of order and leads to all that is good, just, and beautiful, of which it is the invisible, but nevertheless dazzling, passionate, and eternal form. There is no one who ever acts honestly in the administration of states, nor any helper who will save anyone who maintains the cause of the just. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. Successful people never worry about what others are doing. No one should be discouraged, Theaetetus, who can make constant progress even though it be slow. The orators and the despots have the least power in their cities, since they do nothing that they wish to do. Practically speaking, though they do whatever they think to be best. Beauty is the splendor of truth. Wise men talk because they have something to say. Fools because they would like to say something. As empty vessels make the loudest sounds, so they that have the least wit are the greatest babblers. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Wisdom alone is the science of other sciences. A good decision is based on knowledge and not on numbers. Bodily exercise, when compulsory, does no harm to the body, but knowledge which is acquired under compulsion obtains no hold on the mind. Cunning is but the low mimic of wisdom. There are three classes of men: lovers of wisdom, lovers of honor, and lovers of gain. Knowledge without justice ought to be called cunning rather than wisdom. Magic consists of and is acquired by the worship of the gods. Perception and knowledge could never be the same. No man of sense can put himself and his soul under the control of names. You must consider courageously and thoroughly and not accept anything carelessly. I do see one large and grievous kind of ignorance, separate from the rest, and as weighty as all the other parts put together, thinking that one knows a thing when one does not know it. Through this, I believe, all the mistakes of the mind are caused in all of us. Good people do not need law to tell them to act responsibly, while bad people will find a way around the laws. He who steals a little steals with the same wish as he who steals much, but with less power. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors.